Oh, she's going. Meeting is being live streamed. There, it is. It's giving me creepy warnings. Like this person is recording. This person is. It didn't used to do that. Now it is like, you know. Are you sure you want to let this person do this?
I know. Well, we've got to let everyone know what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
All right. So we should be live. Should be live
All
on
right.
video. So welcome everyone who's joining us, or to those that might be watching this as a replay. This is a bonus session to our class last week, which was called Nurture Your Nervous System. And I wanted to bring Dr. Damas on because he is the expert when it comes to CBD and sleep and or other things maybe you want to use CBD for. So this is a really added bonus for everyone that joined last week and for anyone else within the community that is watching this. So thank you, Dr. Damas, for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to join you. Always grateful to hang out with you and share some good information and build with you. So thank you for inviting me.
So let's jump into it. I want to give people some good insight, some expert advice. If anyone's on this session live and wants to ask questions, we have time at the end, or you can drop them in the chat box and we can answer those for you as we go along. But so Dr. Damas, I'm gonna let you explain like who you are and what you do, because you can probably do that better than I can. So I'll let you intro. I know that, I use your product. You are my doctor when it comes to CBD and cannabis, but I'll let you explain what you do and all the wonderful benefits of CBD and sleep.
Yeah. So I'm a physician. I have a holistic clinic in Miami. We specialize in medical marijuana and CBD. But my background training is in radiology. And before that, I was a football player. And in between that, I was a professor of health and exercise science and really into the health and fitness, strength and conditioning world. So kind of always been into this healthy lifestyle optimization kind of thing. And, really been into natural medicines all my life. But I would say about 15 years ago, got on that little pharmaceutical hamster wheel where things aren't going right. I mean, go see physicians and you wind up getting prescribed a whole bunch of stuff, which either doesn't work or make you feel even worse. Right. So it's kind of like you're looking for solutions and not getting solutions, or looking for solutions and getting options that make you feel even worse. And it kind of led me to this kind of journey of discovery. It kind of like, I need something for myself because what I'm getting isn't working for me. And because of that, I stumbled across marijuana. And then through that, reluctantly using marijuana, and it worked. And then through that, discovering CBD. And then, really doubling down on that and getting into that space. I've done a study on CBD and quality of life in retired professional athletes to kind of add some empiric scientific data, advance the field, do some stuff to answer some questions and ask some more questions that need to be answered. So that's what I do. I'm really into it. I love helping people. I really enjoy being a voice of knowledge, a trustworthy voice. I read a lot of articles. I like geeking out on articles and research and all this stuff all the time, but I really like it. So that's what we do. And then I developed a line of my own products to fill needs that I felt weren't being filled by the things that were out there in terms of quality assurance, in terms of, the potency, education, and then what patients ask me for, like, hey, this is what I need help with. So doing some stuff, to give people what they need, because I was in that same boat.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people in that boat that they really struggle. They really struggle to fall asleep, to stay asleep, to feel well rested in the morning. So jumping into a little bit more of the science behind CBD, can you explain to people why or how it is a tool to get a better night of sleep? Like, what does it do for your body? And then why, so for me, because I have personal experience, I've tried other sleep aids. I'm always more natural. I've never tried prescriptions for sleep. But I don't wake up feeling like groggy in the morning after I take CBD. I just wake up feeling really good, really, really well rested. So I guess talking about those differences, because sometimes people take Tylenol PM and melatonin and you wake up feeling pretty groggy after that. So just some of the science.
That's a good question. Yeah. So sleep disturbances are very prevalent in American society at any point in time. If you take a snapshot of the American populace, somewhere between 24 and 65% of people are suffering from some sort of sleep disturbance or sleep disorder, right? And so those can be insomnia, they can be sleep apnea, it could be restless legs, be anything that's interrupting your normal sleep pattern or not allowing you to get what should be your prescribed amount of sleep per night, which is minimum 6 hours, right, of uninterrupted sleep. So at some point, we're all going through this, and there's a number of reasons for that. Some of it could be psychological, some of it could be physiological, it could be a combination of the two, it could be environmental. And then we're kind of like always looking for these ways to get good sleep. We know that sleep is really important to the repair of our body. It's really important to our hormonal regulation. It's really important to our psychiatric and our psychological well-being, because it's during that time that our body really gets to tend to itself, right? And so if you're not giving your body the opportunity to heal, repair, and get itself ready for the next day of activity, you're always behind the 8 ball. And so of the traditional options that people use, which could be pharmaceuticals like the Tylenol PM, which has codeine in it, which is a opioid, or you can have melatonin, which is actually something a lot of people like to use because it's more natural, but it can have some side effects. Some people have what's called nocturnal enuresis. I think I'm pronouncing that well, but it's like you're peeing at night, right? So it's like you're taking this thing to make you go to sleep, and then you have to get up in the middle of the night to go pee, which kind of disrupts and kind of defeats the purpose. And so there are a number of ways that these medications can work, and it's a really kind of complex system. But if we can narrow it down, there are these major receptors and neurotransmitters in your brain. One of them being GABA, GABA. And it's basically an inhibitory neurotransmitter. And what it does is kind of like tell everything to shut down, right? And so you can take medications, for example, opioids work on GABA receptors, benzodiazepines. So my particular situation, I was prescribed Xanax, which is a benzodiazepine, to put me to sleep and for anxiety. Now, these things can often have what's called a long half-life in your body. So what it means is like, how long does it take for half of that stuff to be eliminated by your body? And some of us don't metabolize that stuff well. So for me, when I took that stuff, the next morning, I was a zombie. Like I couldn't move my body and metabolize it well. So, I was in a very small dosage, like maybe 0.5 milligrams, and I couldn't do it. Like I would take it, put me to sleep, knock me out. But then in the morning, I'd be like, I could barely move my body. Like, I can't do this. It's even worse. Like, I'd be even better off if I didn't take this and I was sleep deprived, as opposed to like being the zombie person. And so cannabinoids actually work on those same receptors, right? And then there's a secondary thing in your body called your endocannabinoid system. And it's a system of transmitters, neurotransmitters, and receptors throughout the body that are affected by cannabinoids. And we have cannabinoids that we get from plants like THC and CBD, which are the popular ones. And then we have cannabinoids that we produce. And so like anandamide, right, which is like the bliss molecule. It's the one that makes you happy. And so those are involved in your regulatory cycle, your circadian rhythm, kind of help your body find its balance. And so for research has been shown, for whatever reason, we haven't pinpointed this, sometimes people have dysregulation of their endocannabinoid system, right? For whatever reason, it could be genetic, it could be as a result of environmental things. In my case, it was a result of blunt trauma to the head playing football, which is not a smart thing if you think about it. Like, hey, I'm going to use my head as a weapon, right? But boxers, people who have traumatic brain injuries or sleep disturbances are often a sequela or something that comes along with that, right? So you can have disruption of the system for a number of reasons. And what the research is showing is that when you consume cannabinoids, the external cannabinoids that you get from the plant hit those receptors and help you go to sleep. And they also start regulating your endocannabinoid system over time. So you get into a regular pattern of sleep and waking cycles. So that's why you hear these stories of people saying, hey man, I'll smoke weed to go to sleep, right? I get high, it makes me go to sleep, right? And they're like, I know this is the thing that makes me go to sleep. It's not necessarily the high that makes you, like, it's not the getting high. We often confuse that feeling as the reason why you're getting all this benefit, but there's all these other things, right? So I would say it's kind of like if you're drinking alcohol and it's sweet and you're thinking, man, this stuff is sweet and it gets me excited, right? It's not the sweetness of the beverage that's doing it, right? It's the alcohol that's doing it. It's not the sugar in it. Even though the sugar can involve, but we tend to ascribe a lot of the benefit to the THC, which is not necessarily the case. And so that's where the CBD comes in, right? So that's the nuts and bolts of it. If you can get it all in something that's really easy, palatable.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, there's so much to understand, and I think it could be misunderstood because I know oftentimes people, when they hear CBD, they're like, oh, well, that's marijuana. I'm not interested. Drug testing, all the things. And it's such a common misconception that needs to be cleared up because people, I think, are blocking themselves from being able to utilize a more natural sleep aid or anxiety relieving aid because they don't understand. So
correct.
Yeah, I think
so when you look at CBD, it's got a better safety profile than, for example, your benzodiazepines. It doesn't cross what's called the blood-brain barrier. It doesn't work on your brainstem. Why is that important? Because that's how people overdose and die. A lot of these medications can have effects like respiratory depression, right? Slow down your breathing rate. They interact with other medications or other substances. So if you're taking a sleeping aid and drinking alcohol, or if you're taking a sleeping aid and then you get some sort of other medication on board, those can often interact, and instead of, addition, they actually compound and multiply, right? So a lot of times it's not 1 + 1 = 2. When you're mixing these medications together, it's like 1 + 1 = 3. The combination of those two actually potentiate each other and make them even more powerful than they would be independently. So that's how people accidentally overdose. People go to sleep, they aspirate their contents of their mouth. Yeah, these things happen, right? And so it's kind of a scary thing. Whereas when you're using cannabinoids, specifically CBD, you don't have that same risk, right? So you can't overdose on CBD. You can't, right? And then you've got a better tolerance in terms of half-life, right? So it's got an 18 to 24-hour half-life. So if you're looking at going to sleep for 8 hours, that means, pretty much half of it is out of your system by the time you wake up, or even more, depending on how you metabolize. So you can wake up in the morning and not have the grogginess or kind of like the brain fog that you will have from some of these other things. So it's a pretty good option for people who are looking for ways to manage this without putting themselves at risk. And of course, CBD, if you get the CBD that doesn't have any THC in it whatsoever, which are isolates or broad spectrum products, then you don't have to worry about drug testing or anything like that. If you have a federal job or some kind of job that's going to punish you for having THC in your system, the CBD will allow you to get the benefits without the risk of, repercussions from your workplace or society.
Right. Yeah. Thank you for that. And there are other benefits to taking CBD that are not just about sleep, right? So and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but CBD is anti-inflammatory, correct?
Correct.
So it can definitely help, because when we're sleeping, our body is repairing itself and cleaning itself out and doing all the work we need it to do. So we're healthy and we're rested, but so it's anti-inflammatory. And there's also like anti-anxiety properties or effects that it can have without, like you said, without getting high, without that THC. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is a lot of the products that people have become accustomed to consuming have been from the underground or black market because of so many decades of prohibition in the United States and globally, right? So we're looking at, the first step towards prohibition, I think being in 1903 and 1907, around then. And then the second major step being in 1937 with the Marijuana Prohibition Taxation Act, and then 1971 being the big final straw with Richard Nixon's, banned substances, war on drugs movement, right? So throughout that period of time, anytime you take something away from the public space, it goes underground, and there you get hardcore adherents. Like those are people that are really into it. Alcohol is a good example of this. When alcohol was prohibited, it went underground. What did people start making? Moonshine, right? Like a moonshine is like some of the strongest, harshest, roughest stuff that you can get. Some of the weed that we have right now is kind of equivalent to moonshine in that the alcohol content, in that the THC content is so strong and so potent. It's not really similar to what the plant was, 90 years ago, right? It had much lower levels of THC, closer to kind of like what you would find in some of our hemp plants now, when hemp is a cousin of the cannabis plant, the marijuana plant, but it has lower levels of THC in it. And that's where we get all our CBD from. And so you could consume hemp without getting like overly buzzed. And that was like the thing. So when people speak about like reefer back in the day, like, the jazz clubs in the 20s and 30s and all that stuff, that's what they were talking about. Like people weren't like blazed and like, all gassed out, like, 29, 30% THC. This was like low THC stuff. It's 2%, 4%. Hemp grows to have about 1% nowadays by law. But that old stuff was around 2%. People weren't getting gassed like that. They weren't, right? So now, so now we all think that, hey, the weed is supposed to be this really strong, skunky, like really potent stuff, right? But that's not real. It's not really true. That's what the market has created because it's been underground for so long, right? And then you had these hardcore adherents like breeding plants and, doing all this stuff, but that's not really the case. So if we think about it, it was more hemp, CBD, cannabis was more of a mainstay in everyone's lives before prohibition. I mean, people had this stuff in their medicine cabinets all the time. Women used it for menstrual cramps. That was like headaches. It's a very good anti-inflammatory, as you mentioned. It's a good anti-inflammatory in that it doesn't decrease the amount of circulating white blood cells, so it doesn't put you at risk for infection like other anti-inflammatories like steroids do. So like it's a wonderful thing, right? So anti-inflammatories are good for pain relief, people with chronic illnesses, arthritis, autoimmune diseases, kind of helping your body regulating itself as opposed to having an invasive force come in and regulating your body for you, right?
Yeah. What would you say? Because I have a lot of clients that have a lot of people have sleep disorders, like you said, right? It's very, very, very common. But what would you say to someone who says, I've tried everything. I've tried every pharmaceutical, I've tried marijuana, I've tried CBD. I just can't sleep. I just can't sleep well. Nothing has helped. What would you, as a doctor?
What would I say? Okay, a couple of things, because I do get those questions. I do get those people in office. So a couple of things. There's no magic bullet. So whenever you're looking at chronic conditions, whether it's chronic pain conditions, mental health, whatever they are, right? The idea that you're going to get this one thing that's going to solve all your problems is kind of naive, right? Because we're complex beings. And so we have complex needs and we have complex circumstances that create those needs. So, you know, the thought that you're just going to take one thing and that's going to be the answer is defeating the purpose, right? So you got to have kind of like a toolkit, right? So there are things like sleep hygiene. What is it? What are your sleep habits, right? How do you prepare yourself to go to sleep? What's your sleep environment? What's the temperature? What are your pillows like? What are your mattress, your sheets? What kind of clothes are you going to like? All those things make a difference. They do. Temperature. What does your partner do? Like, is your partner going to sleep with you or on a separate schedule and then comes in and disturbs you? Or is the TV on in the background? So those things are important, right? So that's part of it. Are there underlying medical conditions? When was the last time you got a checkup, right? You may have an illness that's contributing to this, right? It's not just all in your head or something, right? So if you check that, right? And then if we go to kind of like, I've tried it all, right? You've been self-medicating. So you're not an expert, right? So it's kind of say, I've been trying to paint this Sistine Chapel and it's impossible. Like you should probably call this Michelangelo dude. He's really good at painting chapels, right? So you shouldn't give up on the idea that your ability to figure something out yourself is the limit. Is that like, it ends with my knowledge, right? Like say, if I can't figure it out, nobody can figure it out. That's why we have experts and specialists in certain things to provide you guidance and to provide you a knowledge that you don't have the time. Like, you know, like I said earlier, I spend all day, like I'm literally reading these articles. I get up in the morning, I read it because I'm interested in it, right? And so we sometimes fool ourselves into believing that, you know, we can do it all, we're capable of doing it all, we want to solve our own problems. And it's okay to ask for a little help, or to recognize that you may have a knowledge deficit that, you know, can't fill the need for you, and to go to an expert. So I usually tell people, listen, you've tried it, I understand, you're probably doing it yourself because of the circumstances that you're in, but let me see if I can do something. Like, let me try to, you tried to lift the weight and it was a little too heavy for you, right? I've got I've got some bigger muscles than you. I might be able to lift it. You never know. Let me take a shot at it, right?
Yeah.
So that's why, and then, you know, maybe you might need some help also, right? You might need some other people lifting the weight with you. You might need a therapist with you. You might need your significant other, your partner, to be there with you as well, participating in this, because you're not going to have success if that person is sabotaging you every night, right? So, you know, people, a lot of, for example, married people have issues with snoring. So you're not going to be able to sleep well if the person next to you sounds like like a motorboat. Like, that's not going to happen, right? And so,
no, not at all.
So
those are good
what can
points.
we do for that? So what can we do for that, right? You know, there's some things that we can get for your partner. There's some simple things we can do. Lay them on their side, elevate their head with a pillow, decrease the use of alcohol and things before you go to sleep, because a lot of people do drink alcohol and try to go to sleep, right? Lose weight, right? You know, if it's really bad, they can get surgeries in there to reduce the amount of tissue that's flapping in their oral cavity. So, you know, there's a lot of things to be done. It's not over yet. Don't give up the good fight. That's my advice to them.
Yeah, that is good advice. And also, to your point, and you said a lot of this is sometimes people need to hear from someone else that there's changes that need to be made, and lifestyle changes, right? That people will fight you on, like, you know, what they're eating, what they're watching, what they're drinking. Cigarette smoking is bad for all the things, you know? And then people want to say, well, I can't sleep. And you ask them these questions, think X, Y, Z, and you're like, well, you have to make these changes. So humans can be difficult. Yes.
Yeah, the phones are dangerous. The phones are really dangerous because they keep your brain involved at a level that's not really conducive for sleep. And then,
Yes.
you look at the clock and like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. That's not going to happen like that, right? Because you're completely stimulated. And so it's 10 o'clock and you're like, man, I got to go to sleep at 10 o'clock in order to get 8 hours of sleep and get up at 6. That's not going to happen if you're on your phone till 9:59. You're like, oh, okay, now it's 10 o'clock. Let me put this thing down. You're going to be up on that thing scrolling and doing all that stuff for hours and hours. And that's not going to help you out, right? Or, the temperature. That's an easy one. I tell people all the time, listen, an hour before you go to sleep, you should set your temperature to what you like, because it's going to take at least an hour for the room to get to the temperature that you like. If you get into bed and it's not there, you're going to be uncomfortable for an hour, right? So that's an hour wasted, tossing and turning. And what happens then, right? You're already behind. You'll probably be on your phone scrolling. You're going to be doing something else. And boom, before you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Your brain doesn't shut off and it's a wrap.
Yeah. Yeah, I talk a lot about that. So the program we had last week, one of the pillars was sleep. And I talk a lot about our technology and how disruptive it's been to us as humans. And the light from the phone or from our screens is not allowing our circadian rhythm to kick in. I know I don't have to tell you this, you're the doctor, but it's things as simple or perhaps as hard as putting the phone down, right? Giving yourself that time so the body can naturally produce the hormones it needs to produce to go to sleep, because it's not, right? When you have that fake light, your body thinks it's still light outside and it's not going to start to produce the things it needs to produce so you can sleep. And it's messing us all up, right? And if we're aware of it, we make a plan, make a sleep hygiene plan, as you said, and we follow it. And once you start following it, it gets easier and easier and easier. It's the beginning part that's hard. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What do people say? Like insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes we forget that. Kind of like, oh, I can figure this out. I can do it myself. And then it's not figured out and you can't do it yourself. And then throw your hands up and say, oh, well, it can't be done. Well, that's not the case. It's just your approach was wrong, right? Like you couldn't do it because you didn't know what to do. And so with some guidance that you can get that. And so we get really good results from adding CBD or cannabis, but I'm a big fan of CBD, obviously. So it's like an all day thing for me, but adding that to your routine, whether it's meditations, prayer. One of the things I do before I go to sleep is I have to give myself some time to like relax, think about my day. How was it? What did I accomplish? What do I want to do tomorrow? What am I thankful for? So always give myself kind of like a closing, kind of like, all right, like this is today's synopsis. Feel good about yourself, and get ready for the next day. And for my mind and for my heart and for my soul, it's much easier for me to like get into bed and be at peace, not have my thoughts raced, not think about incomplete projects or conflicts or things I could have had earlier in the day. Like I take a moment to like wrap it up. Wrap it up. Let's go. It's time to go to sleep. So no more of these thoughts. No more thinking about this. No more thinking that. Like put a bow on that. That day is over. We're gonna handle that tomorrow, and then we'll get after it tomorrow. And even that, like for me, that's a simple thing that I do, but it gives me peace of mind. It allows me to be in my space where I can go to sleep, because sleep was one of my major problems that got me in this in the first place, was not being able. I was taking Benadryl at some point to go to sleep, and that had me like zombied out before I got the Xanax. So
wow, and Xanax is so addictive and
correct.
It's so wow. And I know people similar to you that every night they have to take multiple things just to get maybe 5 hours of sleep, maybe. And it's just hard. I mean, it's hard on your body too, because if even to your point, I didn't even realize that Tylenol PM had codeine in it. I mean, I didn't know that, which is wild. I don't take it. I've probably taken Tylenol PM twice my entire life. I don't want to take it. So it's just wild. And sleep is just so necessary. It's just as necessary as the food we're eating. It's just as necessary as the water we're drinking, the exercise that we get. And I think we're finally coming around to that as a society. Like you said, the US has a really high number of sleep disorders, but for so long, there was that mindset of I'll sleep when I'm dead, right? Or
Correct.
highly productive. Oh, I hear people say, I get 4 hours of sleep a night, I'm great. I'm like, I don't think so. Like,
No, no, not as
I don't know what you're
right.
doing during the day, but
But
no, I don't know what you're
no,
taking, but no. I mean, it's a vicious cycle because you're not sleeping. And then when you're awake, are you over caffeinating?
yeah,
Are you like just a zombie, like you said? I mean, when you get a horrible night of sleep or many horrible nights of sleep, you're operating at a very low level compared to what you
yeah,
could be operating at. So we always want people feeling their best. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But what I did want to say was that CBD has been something that is tremendously helped me and lots of people I care about and clients of mine. And the benefits are huge. So if anyone that's watching this, watching the replay, you can always reach out to myself or Dr. Damas. Dr. Damas has his organic line of CBD and I swear by it. So tell me your website again.
it's really simple. It's just drdamas.com, drdamas.com. Muy
Perfect.
fácil. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm really like, I'll tell you the truth. I'm really happy to be doing this. Like I can't put it any other way. Like, because it was challenges that kind of forced me to go in this direction. And during that period of time in my life when I was kind of trying to figure this out, to find a way, there was no answer. There literally was no answer. There was nobody who was like, hey, dude, let me hold your hand or let me help you out. I kind of had to figure things out by myself and do a lot of stuff. That was difficult. I had to deal with a lot of hospital administration stuff you know, and to be able to like be a voice for other people who are kind of like, bro, I'm in the same situation. Be like, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like so much you won't even believe it, right? And so I'm really happy that a hardship or a difficulty in my life has pushed me in a direction where I'm able to do something for other people, and help people like you. Like, so I'm really thankful. And so we made the product line because, I wanted something that, I could use, people I care about could use, my patients can use, my family, my father uses it. He's 90 years old. He uses it all day long. My best friends, their mothers, their fathers. And so that's really important to me because these are people that I really care about who are like, dude, I need some help, and they come to me, patients, good friends like you who come by like, hey man, this is what's going on. And they're like, don't worry, I got you. Right. And so I'm really happy to be doing this. And so the more people that we can help get off of like the hamster wheel, the pharmaceuticals, answer questions, give them information and be a resource that people can trust. There's a lot of crazy stuff out there. A lot of people looking to profit, a lot of profiteering, a lot of garbage out there. And so, if I can help people out, I'm all for it. Like I'm all for it because I know what it was like to be like, bro, I'm stuck. Like I need some help here. So
Yeah. I know. And that's why like our journeys are so valuable because when we go through the struggle and we experience it our own and we come out on the other side and we can help people. I mean,
yeah,
it's just such a valuable resource. And then you really understand too, like you have that compassion and you have
sure.
that desire to help people, and we need that in this world. We need
Yeah, we do.
so
Yeah.
much. Yeah.
It's a crazy space that we're in, not to wax all poetic and stuff, but some of the demands that are placed on us in the society are unreasonable. I think some of the philosophy that permeates throughout our social constructs, like, hey, sleep when you die, you can never work enough, You know, that kind of stuff is like,
No,
it's crazy.
it's crazy.
Oh man, if you know, if you're not, you're like, if you're not working, you know, like, what are you people talking about? What are you talking
No,
about? That's that's crazy stuff. And you know, with all the mental health issues and the general health issues, the idea and all the data that even shows that. So not even the anecdotal stuff, but there's data that actually shows that this lifestyle is not conducive to health, to overall health or longevity. It just
no,
isn't.
there's so much data. Yeah, there's so much
Yeah,
data. There's so much research. We
yeah,
can't deny it anymore,
yeah,
right? We can't
exactly.
continue this cultural conversation
Yeah,
of, you know, the less sleep, the better.
yeah,
But I'm such an advocate for sleep, and it's one of the things I focus on a lot. And I want people to understand, like, sometimes I think people need permission. Like, it's okay, you're allowed to sleep, you're allowed to rest. You
yeah,
know, like when people come to my yoga classes, because I'm a slower on purpose
yeah,
teacher, I always give people permission to move slowly, because everyone's like, I got to take a, you know,
yeah,
a lot of people want a power yoga class. They don't want to think, they want to move, you know, they want to get the
yeah,
workout in. And that's fine. I'll take a power yoga class all day long. But I always tell people, like, I'm giving you permission to slow down. And I think you need to hear that, because our culture
yeah,
doesn't foster that, and it's really detrimental. And I do things really slowly throughout my life in many ways. Like, and I just think it's really beneficial to take that time, that space, have some
correct.
mindfulness. Yeah. And like, to your point, slowing down before bedtime, having a ritual, like you described yours, I have my own. And we need that. The body, the mind needs to know it's okay. It's time to slow down. You're allowed to,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
unwind, process the day, release some things, you know?
yeah.
So I could talk about this forever. There's so much good information, so much necessary information. But I thank you for joining us today,
Thank,
and we'll probably have something together in the future. And if
yeah,
anyone has questions, like I said, reach out to me. Go to drdamas.com. CBD is available for sale there, right?
yep,
Online.
yep,
Um,
yep.
and thank you. I thank you for
Thank
joining.
you. Let's do it again. I'm happy. I'm happy to
Yes.
be here.
All right. Well, have a wonderful day. I'll see you
You too.
soon.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye.